Hey dear Tyler, what's up? How are you doing? I really hope you're good. I hope you're fine. And I hope the week has been, moving on really well for you. It's Friday, at least at this side of the world and at the time of recording this. And it's almost the weekend. I know for a lot of us, weekends are like the exceptional part of the week for us. Right? Fridays just has that, a lot of anticipation. I remember I was talking with someone a few days ago and I was like, do you know, if Monday was added to the weekend, going to work would have been easy. For some of us, weekends are typically still work days, right? Got rehearsals, got various meetings, then Sunday got church service, so it's a lot, but I hope you get some time to rest, to, rejuvenate yourself and all. So yeah, and also this is an apology. I know I should have released this episode yesterday, but I've been getting back-to-back calls from work. So it's been very, very difficult, like consistently back-to-back calls. So it's been difficult to do it. So I'm doing this one now for us. And yeah, thank you so much for your patience. This is also a shout out to Jollof Radio. Right, before I get into the meat of the podcast, so shout out to Jollof Radio, really helping also grow this podcast. Thank you so much for sharing our content on your platform. And this is me also telling you, Tyler, make sure you reach out to Jollof Radio. Right, make sure you reach out to Jollof Radio. If you want to listen to the podcast, please listen to it on Jollof Radio. If you're a podcaster, upcoming podcaster, especially within the region of Africa, do well to connect with Jollof Radio. They're an exceptional organization and they'll help you grow your audience, right? Then again, we also have one more thing before I get into the meat. Sorry. Right, so one more thing. We now have comments on our Spotify platform. So if you listen to Dear Tyler on Spotify, you could drop comments, and now I also have the ability to respond to comments. So if you've got questions about any episode that you may listen to, you could drop it there. We could keep up the conversations through there, but you can still reach us on our social media platforms. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on TikTok, right? And so you could reach out via email. Right, I'll be sharing some amazing stories from other people very, very soon, right? So let's get into today's episode. So I titled today's episode In Front of You. In Front of You. And this was birthed because of my podcast generally. So over time, I know when I started out the whole podcasting journey, I'd wanted quite a lot of things, the professional gadgets, the professional mic, the roadcaster, mixer, so that I'll be able to do, live shows and all. I needed cameras, okay, so let me rephrase it so that it's not look as if I have it, because I don't have it yet, right? So I need microphones, I need a roadcaster, mixer, podcasting machine, something like that. I need cameras, so that we could, work on video content, quite a lot of things. And at the early stage, I was looking at the budget, and it was, so much money, and, God is still helping us. We're building up our finances towards, getting all of that. And at that point in time, I felt like I could not do anything professional. And there was this mediocre mindset that came to me, right? That, okay, so you're only using your phone to be able to record these. There's not really much that you can do when it comes to content, when it comes to visuals, when it comes to ideas, or whatever. Now, something happened recently. So if you've noticed the past maybe 2-3 episodes, there has been a slight change. The audio has become a lot clearer. And then the musical sounds have changed. The musical sounds have changed. For all these years that I've been podcasting, the key to improving the quality of my sound was right in my room. Irrespective of whether I had whether I had the gadgets, the microphones, all of these professional tools, right? The key to an improved podcast was right in my room. So I've got the software, I got everything. So I was thinking, I'll buy software, how glamorous or standard podcasting or recording studios are. That was all that was in my mind. And I didn't know that the key was right in my room. I've got a recording software on my system, right? The recording software on my system. I got Fruity Loops on my system. And I got a phone that can record, and it records pretty clearly, right? And I remember how many times I had struggled, maybe I had to cut one or two audios because of noise. I had to, merge some other audio files, and then I'll go on my phone, try to download one app. It won't do the work properly, or it will have to be paid for. There was just a whole lot that I could not do, right? And for years my laptop has been looking at me with the key to everything that I need. Like, when I say literally the key to every single thing that I need. And so now I have the ability to be able to, create my own background music. Now, there are presets on the Spotify for podcasters, right? There are presets for it. So the music, the sound, it's all, as you're uploading. If you've gone through my course, you understand what I'm saying. Once you upload your audio, you can now put a background audio to play, but you don't really have so much control as to the volume levels, mixing or, fixing up your work like that. Now, if you notice the past episodes, every guitar that you've been hearing is me, right? So I sit down in my room, I play the guitar, and then I import it into the Fruity Loops. I do the recording, I import it into Fruity Loops too, and then I do the editing, the blend, and then it's just been amazing, and it's just been beautiful. Now, when I realized this, it really became a lot more exciting to be able to create content, right? To be able to create episodes. I find so much joy and so much pleasure. Now, how did I discover this? I did a recording some months ago, and I just felt like, okay, let me try, mixing and mastering. And I was like, wait, what's the whole concept of mixing and mastering? Is it not audio work? And when I did the whole mixing and mastering, I liked what I did, even with zero to nothing knowledge you get. But I was able to, create something nice. And all of a sudden, it was like a light bulb just, came on, and was like, this is the same thing that you can use for your podcast, and you can make it a lot better. As you are waiting for the professional gadgets to come, as you're waiting for the other standard equipment to come, right? Use what you have to get what you want. It's right in front of you, right? The solution is right in front of you. Now, I remember some few months ago, I started doing video, some little video content on TikTok, on Instagram, and I would have to, resume it. But one of the things I did was that I would, because I didn't have like a stand, or I thought I didn't have a stand, I would, layer different books together to get a proper angle of my phone, make sure that I'm looking, just, to kind of like put it on the stand. And right in my room, I had a selfie stick. I have a selfie stick up to now. But I was thinking of, when I can get millions of naira, thousands of dollars to get my Canon camera, and all of those expensive gadgets. But what I needed to be able to start something was right in my room. Now, it's very easy for us to despise some certain things because we've been exposed to greater quality. Right? Very, very easy to despise them because we've been exposed to greater quality. You can literally take You can literally be a victim, right, of missing out of great opportunities because you're not able to identify the little gifts that God has given you. Now, let me relate this to a Bible story. I think it was the prophet Elijah with a widow, right? He went over and she said that he asked her for, loaf of bread and everything. He was hungry. She said that she doesn't have anything but a little cruse of oil, and that little cruse of oil was what she anticipated that her and her sons would eat, and then they would die. After that, now nothing. And he requested that they make, a little bread for him, and then, God will do something miraculous. And after she had fed him, he told her to start pouring in, oil, go and borrow vessels. And that's how the oil multiplied. In another story, and I think it's still one of the two prophets, the Elijah, Elisha, where they were about to, because the woman was in debt, they were about to take her children. And the prophet asked, "What do you have in your house?" He said, "Nothing but a little cruse of oil." And that same principle worked again. Carried the oil and brought it into different vessels, and she kept pouring. The oil kept, filling in those vessels. And when there were no more vessels, that's when the oil stopped. But as long as there were vessels, the oil kept supplying the need. He said, take out of this and pay back what you owe, then live on the rest. Right? Take out of this, pay back what you owe, then live on the rest, you and your children. And God just used it to relate to me and said, "Binga, what is in front of you?" There are many times that we feel that the solutions that we're looking for are extremely far. And God was telling me, He said that I'm not going to be an inconsiderate father, that I would have to make you go so far to find a solution. I will not put you through the motions or through the stress to be able to find solutions. Sometimes it's about discerning the gifts that we have right in front of us and knowing that we can make, great things out of the little things that are in front of us. On Sunday, last week Sunday, Apostle preached about the manifold grace of God, and he made mention of something, and I shared an example with other people, and he said that the grace of God is like granite. Now I know that it seems a little bit far-fetched, but he said that the grace of God is like granite, peanuts, right? So in its raw form. Now, one thing that I've noticed is that many times during service or during any gathering, right, in as much as there is a message being preached and it is preached towards a particular thought pattern, it's preached towards a particular area, and the Spirit of the Lord ministers to people differently. And all of a sudden, from that particular example that he gave, the Spirit of the Lord told me that, do you know that everything that can be created on earth is already on earth? That same granite or peanut, right, is the source material for granite oil. The oil is part of the groundnut, but it takes you discerning the value of that to be able to draw out oil from the groundnuts, right? So it's the same thing with life, that there are certain things that are right before you, right? They look raw, or in their raw state, they look very valueless, right? They don't seem to carry any value. They don't seem to carry any form of worth. But if you can discern what is right in front of you, you can make the best out of it until the higher level of it comes. Until the higher level of it comes. I get fascinated every time watching, a lot of these camping videos and seeing how people, make the best right, or make the most out of the materials that they have, how they could start a fire. For somebody, I can't start a fire without a lighter, I can't start a fire without matches. But then somebody decides to, rub two stones together after gathering, the leaves and gathering some plastics, and it just takes that little spark. Now for somebody, the person would be like, oh, I don't have the necessary equipment to be able to create certain things, right? And they just, live there in despair and make absolutely no effort. But then some other people look around them and say, there has to be something around me that I can use to be able to get what I want in the interim, right? We have to get to the point that we leave the realm of creating excuses because the best is not available. If the best is not available, right, use what is available. Use what is available. There are these boys on Instagram, Ikorodu boys, and they usually do, a lot of trailer videos, right? So they mimic or do parodies of trailer videos. Now, these guys don't have all the gadgets in the world, but it's what has become their own selling point, right? They did, I think, a trailer video for Extraction. I think it's 2. Yes, it should be Extraction 2. And, the Netflix creator, the producer of the movie and some of the actors, even reached out to them. Now, I don't know much about them. Maybe over time, they've been able to get 1 or 2 sponsorships, right? But they took what they had, the little sticks, the little cartons and boxes. They use those ones as cars. They use somebody's phone as a camera, and they just did what they could. All the explosions, they'll carry maybe sand and throw, just do something and give the impression that it's the parody of the trailer, right? The trailer video. And it's the same thing with us, that if the best and most standards of equipment are not available to you, don't fall victim of not doing anything. Carry what you have and start. Carry what you have and start. God had to remind me and say, he told me, he was like, that, Pinga, when you wanted to start podcasting, you started with your phone. You did not necessarily have all the gadgets, but you knew that your phone at that time can be able or would be able to create the content for you. And if you listen to the first 3 episodes, they were extremely hazy and raw. And then I had to find different ways of working, on my editing, making it a lot better. I tried using, I think there's this Adobe Audio or Adobe Podcast. It's an AI software. It's very nice. It really, really did help in clearing the audio. The challenge is that the audio file was very, very large. Struggled with data at some point. So I had to find another solution. I moved on to BandLab. But BandLab, without the premium service, you can only do up to 15 minutes. And so I had to start, cutting. The point is this, that at every roadblock, I had to innovate or find different methods, right, of getting the job done. But I realized that over time, there was just this, this staleness. And honestly, it's because I felt like, I don't have all the gadgets, at my disposal. So just, realizing that, in fact, the sound equipment I may not have, but at least I can edit it here on my system and do a pretty good job. I can now showcase, my art and my craft via the guitar on my podcast. And people can, I love the guitar background, and it could open doors for a lot of other things. It can open doors for a lot of other things. So what's the point generally of this podcast? It's this episode rather. Do not despise what God has given you. Do not despise the seemingly little things that surround you. Everything around you has the potential to bring a better version of you if you can discern its value. Everything or anything around you, you can make do with anything around you to be able to create something. The issue is if you can discern and place value on it. The day is going to come that I'll have a standard studio, not just for podcasts, but also for my music. But as I'm waiting for that standard studio, right, what am I going to do? what am I going to do? How would... There's this grace, the grace for visibility, that Apostle keeps on praying for us consistently. And, I've received it, I've trusted God for it, I've received grace for visibility for dear Tyler. I want the world to listen to this podcast. And I know that the world will, right? I've prayed for visibility for a lot of things. But many times when that grace had come, it had come in a state where I was not necessarily doing anything. And the Spirit of God cautioned me the last time when He prayed for it, and He said, how can I make visible what does not exist? If you do not create something for me to bring out for people to see, what do you want me to do at the end of the day? So that you ended up receiving a lot of graces, a lot of enablements from the Spirit of God, but there's nothing to showcase it. Oh, Lord, it's not up to standard. Lord, it's not good. But if you watch people's first videos, if you watch people's first, whatever art or craft that they did, it was in its most primitive form. It was just the courage and the boldness to be able to say, okay, this is what I have, and I'm going to use it to bless the world. When I get better with better things, you'll see a better version of me. I am learning and I am growing. I am, honing my gift, honing my craft. But until that time, I'm not going to be silent on what I do. I'm going to deliver to the best level that I can. I will deliver to my level of excellence, what is available to me, the best level of excellence that I have at that moment. And so I told myself, I was like, nah, no more excuses, right? No more excuses. It's right in front of you. And I want you to begin to look around, the things that you have. You really have the materials, to be able to make something out of your life, or at least to start something, right? At least to start something. If I did not have a phone, I would have borrowed a phone. Honestly, if I did not have a phone, I would have borrowed a phone. If I did not have, a laptop or something, I would have still found a way around it. But it's because until I, desire something, until I desire to be better, right? It may not push me to be better. I don't know if that makes sense. Until I desire to be a better version of myself, I would never be pushed towards being better. It was in my pursuit for excellence that I discovered that these things were right here in front of me. And it's in your pursuit for excellence, Tyler, that you'll discover that the miracle is not far from you. The miracle is not far from you. So take out time and say, Lord, what is it that you have placed in my hands? What is in my hand? What is in my house? What is in my mind? What can you use right, that within me to be a blessing to my generation at this time? What can you use, Lord, within me that can help my craft and help my art at this point in time? Help me to see it too. Help me to see it too. Everything that I need to be the best version of me at this current state is right in front of me. And it's about me discerning and using it. Right? Don't despise that one cruse of oil. Don't despise that small stone, because that small stone can bring down a giant. If you need to learn how to use that small stone to bring down the giant, learn it. But don't wait until you have that full armor that is set for you before you attack that giant. If David waited for them to mold, or to craft out an armor for him, Goliath would have spent extra days mocking the children of Israel. And only God knows the amount of words of discouragement that might have come from that situation. And so while they were crafting out his armor, he took his sling and 5 stones and still won the battle. It wasn't recorded again, so there's no real record again that he used a sling and stone to be able to win another battle. We find out that he started going for battles, really engaging the enemy. But so that means there was a clarity that, you know, that the armor was built and all. But he didn't wait for it to happen before he started moving. He moved with what God had already given him. That skill, that grace, that anointing, that craft. You make the best use of everything that you have in your hands. So we see even from that story, there isn't any record again. It might have happened, but there isn't any record again that he used, you know, the sling and stone to win any other battle. He might have probably used it, but then you could see that in later stories he became a mighty man of war, leading the armies of Saul. Right, so definitely he left with his armory. Right? But his first contact with the enemy, he didn't wait for all things to be set. He moved in faith with what God had given him. So Tyler, I really, really want you to honor the skills that God has given you. I want you to honor the things that God has given you, the tools that are in your very periphery, right? I want you to honor them and ask the Lord, what can I do with what you have given me? What can I do with what you have given me? And then be faithful. Scripture says that he that is faithful in little will be faithful over much. Right? He that is faithful in little will be faithful over much. There are a lot of things that God cannot give you until you have shown value for the things that he has already given. Until you have made use of the things that he has already given. Right? So I really do hope that this episode blessed you. Right? Please do well to share with other people. Make sure that you connect as much as possible with everything that is going on in Dear Tyler, right? So remember that I love you, I believe in you, and I'm always rooting for you. Bye.